Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me and if you are able to see the presentation without any trouble, please confirm by commenting on the chat panel. We've received a few confirmations, so let's move on with the training. So welcome everyone to the free Network Configuration Manager training session. So Network Configuration Manager is a part of ManageEngine's ITOM solutions, which has 6 different products that will help you manage your IT infrastructure. First, we have Op Manager, which is a network monitoring solution. Then we have NetFlow Analyzer, which is a bandwidth monitoring solution. Then we have Network Configuration Manager, which is a configuration management solution. Then we have Firewall Analyzer, which is a firewall log analysis tool. Then we have Oputils, which is an IP address management solution. And finally, we have Applications Manager, which is an agentless monitoring tool for all your applications and servers. So I'm your trainer for today. My name is Arjun Prem Kumar, and I'm a product expert for ManageEngine's Network Configuration Manager. So today is the first part of the 2-part NCM free training, and we'll be discussing about configuration backup and disaster recovery. And next week on the 10th of September, same time, we'll be having the second part of the training where we'll be discussing about configlets, compliance, role-based access control, and reports. So let's move on to the training. So let's first look into why you need a configuration management tool. So businesses grow and their needs grow. So to accommodate all these needs and to serve to all these needs, changes have to be made to the configuration files every now and then. Now, while making changes to these configurations, there is a high chance that a faulty configuration gets uploaded to one or many of your devices. So this can cause many network issues, or it can cause a network disaster where your entire network is rendered inaccessible. So with a network configuration management solution, you can minimize such configuration errors. You can monitor changes that are being made into your configuration, into your device configurations. You can monitor, you can also accept and reject any configuration changes that are being made to your devices. And you can set up a rollback mechanism to devices in which you want no changes to be made, like your core routers or your firewalls. And you can also stay compliant to a lot of industry standards like PCI, HIPAA, SOX, and also your internal policies. So let's look at what ManageEngine's Network Configuration Manager can do for you. You can schedule various network operations like backup, compliance checks, and so on. You can also compare configurations, 2 different versions of configurations of the same device or of different devices. And then you have real-time change detection, where NCM detects any change made by users in real time and triggers a backup. Then you have the configuration rollback, where you can set up a rollback mechanism so that no changes are made to your critical devices. And then you have user-based access, where every user in the network is given a scope of devices. So these users will only be able to manage and make changes to the configuration of only those devices in their scope. Then you have the change review and approval mechanism, where there are many network operators that manage your devices in your network, and they can edit the configuration and send the draft to the network admin, which the network admin can then review and approve or reject accordingly. Then there's the policy compliance verification, where you can ensure that your devices, your network is compliant to various industry standards and internal policies. And finally, we have the remote firmware update, where you can make sure that your devices are in the latest version of, are updated to the latest version of their firmware. So there's no possibility of any vulnerability. So here's the agenda for today's training. First, we'll be looking into the requirements for installing Network Configuration Manager in your network. Then we'll be looking into device discovery and device templates. And then we'll be looking into credentials. We'll be moving on to configuration backups and upload. And then we'll be looking into real-time change detection and change management. And finally, we'll be looking into disaster recovery today. So these are the minimum, this is the minimum system requirement for NCM to seamlessly run on your network. You would need a 2 gigahertz dual core processor, a 4 GB RAM, 100 GB storage, PostgreSQL or MSQL, and NCM runs both on Windows and Linux. So these specs are for an environment with 50 or lesser devices. And if you have more than 50 devices, you can refer to the system requirements given here. You can also go and check the system requirements in our website. So before we move on with the training, I'd like to inform that all the training materials will be emailed to the attendees today after the training. So these are the ports and protocols that NCM uses. The protocols are SSH, SCP, and TFTP. And the ports that have to be made available for NCM to function properly in your network are 69 TFTP, 22 SSH SCP, 514 syslog, 13306 Postgre database, and 8080 HTTP. So let's look into device discovery. For you to be able to manage the configurations of your device, you'll have to first add the device or discover the device into the NCM inventory. So this is how the discovery operation works in NCM. The discovery engine in NCM first sends an SNMP request to the device. So in response, the device sends its subject ID back to the discovery engine. The discovery engine then tries to match the received sysobject ID with the default or custom sysobject ID already present in its database. If a match is found, the device is added, and if not, it is not added, but you can add it manually, which we'll be looking at later in the training. So let me show you this in the UI. So this is the UI of Network Configuration Manager. To discover a device, you can go to Settings, you go to Discovery, and then you go to Network Discovery. Here you can see that there are three types of discovery methods here. One is IP, or you entering the IP or host name, then you have the IP range, and then you have the CSV file import. So when you want to add individual devices into Network Configuration Manager, you can use the IP or host name based discovery. If you want to add multiple devices that fall in an IP range, you can enter the IP range here. So in our earlier versions, we supported only IP version 4. And in our latest versions, we support devices that are compatible with IP version 6. So I'm entering an IP range here. And then I'm associating the credentials here. I'm selecting public as a credential, and then I'm clicking on discover. So you can see the status of the discovery here, and I'm just drilling down here. So you can see that these many devices have been in that particular IP range have been added, and these devices have not been added. So you can manually discover these devices by selecting the devices here and clicking on the add to inventory button here. You can select the vendor and the device template name here. You can enter the series, the model, and once you're done with that, you can click on add, and these devices will now appear in your NCM inventory. So like I showed you before, there is the IP address, the IP range, and CSV file import based discovery, which fall under the SNMP discovery category. Then there's the manual addition, which is not very different from the SNMP discovery. In manual addition, you can add individual devices using IP address or host name, and also you can add multiple devices using a CSV file import. So let me show you how to add devices manually. So you go to the inventory. You click on the plus button here. So here you have the option to add a single device or import devices from a text file. So all you have to do is enter the IP or host name here. select the vendor. You can see these are the vendors that are currently supported by NCM. And you have all the device templates under that particular vendor. So you enter the series, the model, and once you're done with that, you click on add, and the device will now be manually added into the NCM inventory. And if you want to add a device using the CSV file import, select this radio button, and from here you can import the CSV file. And for your CSV file based discovery to be successful, it has to be in the format that is shown here. Here are a few examples of that particular format. So while trying to discover devices into NCM, you might face the following errors, and here is how to fix them. So the device can be reachable, and the SNMP community might be correct, but the device is still not getting added. So the cause for this could be that the SNMP read community is incorrect, or the SNMP is disabled in the device. So you can fix this simply by logging into the device manually through TELNET or PuTTY and correcting the SNMP read community and enabling SNMP in the device. Another reason could be that the sysobject ID is not mapped with any device template. So you can easily fix this by adding the sysobject ID to the device template in the sysobject ID finder in settings. So let me show you how to do that. You go to settings, go to device management, and then you go to sysobject ID finder here. So these are the sysobject IDs of the devices that are currently supported by NCM. So you can see here that we support around 6,000 devices. So you can search for your sysobject ID, the sysobject ID of the device that you wish to add here. And if you don't find it, you can add the sysobject ID and associate it to a template here. So if you don't know the sysobject ID and know only the IP address, you can enter the IP address of the device here and select a credential profile, or you can enter the credentials manually here. Or if you already know the sysobject ID of the device, all you have to do is click on skip here, enter the sysobject ID, select the vendor, and select the device template name. And then you enter the series, the model, and finally, when you click on save, the sysobject ID of that device will now be associated with the device template that you have just selected here. There's an alternative to this. You can directly go into the device templates and add the subject ID there, which I'll be showing to you later in the training. So another common cause for discovery failure could be that the device template is no default device template is available in NCM for that particular device. So in such a case, you can add or clone an existing device template, or if you're finding it difficult to do that, you can always contact NCM support. So before I show you how to clone or add a device template, let me talk a little about device templates. So what are device templates and what are they used for? Device templates contain the basic commands for network operations like configuration backup, configuration upload, enabling and disabling syslog chains, fetching hardware information, and so on. So why is this important? The configuration command for a backup operation of a Brocade router will be different from that of a Cisco router. So all these commands are unique for different devices and different vendors. So it becomes a daunting task for the network admin to remember the commands of all these different devices and vendors. So device templates makes it easier by saving all those commands with an NCM. So let me show you how to create a device template. You go to settings, go to device management, and then you have something called device templates here. So these are the device templates that are available currently in NCM. So I can clone a device template here. So you can always clone the closest device template that will support your devices. So I'm clicking on clone here. I'm giving the device template a new name. You can give it a description if you like to. You can select the OS type. You can choose the vendor here. If your vendor is not available currently in NCM, you can always click on new vendor here and provide the details. And here you can choose the device type. You can see all the device types that are supported by NCM for that particular vendor. Once you're done choosing all that, you can click on next. And this is the protocol. You can select different protocols based on the device. And these are the commands for each network operation. So these are the commands, and these are the timeouts for those particular commands. So once you're done entering all the commands, you can click on next. And you can enter the sysobject ID of the device that you wish to associate with this template, if you know the sysobject ID. And if you don't know, you can always click on query device here. You can enter the host name or the IP address, and then you can select the credential profile, or you can enter the credentials manually. And when you click on add, that particular device will now be associated with the new device template that you just created. So let's move on to the various protocols that are used for backup. These are the possible combinations of protocols for configuration backup in NCM. So let's look into how these protocol combinations work and how the backup occurs using these protocol combinations. So in the SSH or TELNET based backup, a channel is established between NCM and the device in the SSH or TELNET protocol. The configuration backup commands are sent from NCM to the device through this channel, and the device sends the device configuration back to NCM through the same channel. NCM then receives this configuration file, encrypts it, and stores it in the database. Next, we have the SSH SCP based configuration backup. So a channel is established. A communication channel is created using SSH SCP. The configuration backup commands are sent through this particular channel, and the configuration file transfer happens from the device to NCM using the SCP protocol. So the SCP server associated with NCM will then receive this configuration file, encrypt it, and store it in the database. So next is the SSH Telnet TFTP based configuration backup. So a communication channel is established in the SSH Telnet TFTP protocols. The configuration backup commands are sent through these protocols, and the configuration file transfer happens through the TFTP protocol through the same channel. The TFTP server associated with NCM then receives the configuration file, encrypts it, and stores in the database. So this is the last possible combination for configuration backup. So here no channel is established. The commands are sent from NCM. An SMP request is sent for configuration backup, and the configuration file transfer happens using the TFTP protocol. The TFTP server associated with NCM then receives this configuration commands, encrypts it, and stores it in the database. So how do you provide credentials into NCM? Before I show you how to provide credentials into NCM, let me tell you why it is important to provide credentials. So credentials are the specifics that you'll have to provide to establish a communication between NCM and the device. So only after that will you be able to manage the configuration of the device and perform various operations like compliance check and configuration backups. So let me show you how to provide credentials in the UI. You go to inventory. You select any device here. You can select one or more devices if you like to. I'm just selecting one device here. Selecting apply credentials. You can select the protocol here. You can enter the credential profile. If you have a credential profile already, you can select the credential profile here. If not, you can give the login name, the password, the prompt, and if you have an enable password or enable prompt. And once you're done with that, you can click on save and test. And once you do that, NCM will try to execute certain network commands in the device. And if the credentials are right, NCM will be able to successfully do this. You can also choose to back the device configuration immediately after you've updated the credentials. So here's a comparison of how the credentials are entered in NCM, which is on the right side, the white window, and on the left side, the black window is that of a telnet or a putty. So you can see that the password, the enable prompt, and the enable password and enable prompt have been already entered here. So here's another example of the device directly going into enable mode here. And finally, we have an example of the 3-com router where a login name, a password, and a prompt has been provided. So again, as shown earlier, once you're done entering the credentials, you can click on Save and Test. While trying to apply credentials to a device, you might face the following error. Credentials are valid, but the file transfer has failed. So this could be due to the TFTP or SCP servers not being started. So you can fix this by going and checking the server status in NCM server settings and restart them if required. So let me show you that in the UI. You go to settings, you go to basic settings, and then you go to server settings. Here you have the various servers that are associated with NCM. So here you have the TFTP server, then the SCP server, and here you can see the status of those particular servers. And if they're not in running status, you can always click on Start Service here, and you can click on Save, and the servers will now be started, and you'll be able to take backups and apply credentials of those devices. So let's move into configuration backup. Configuration backups are very important when you want to recover from a network disaster or fix any network issues. So if you already have stable working versions of the configurations of those devices, all you have to do is upload those configurations into those devices using NCM, and you can instantly recover from any network issues or disasters. So there are 3 types of backup in NCM. The first is instant backup, which you can use to back up the configuration of an individual device or for devices in bulk. Next, we have the real-time change detection based backup. And finally, we have the schedule backup. So let me show you how to make an instant configuration backup using Network Configuration Manager in the UI. So you go to the inventory. You can select one devices or devices in bulk here. Go to the 3-dot menu here. And once you click on backup here, the current configurations running on these devices will be instantly backed up into the servers. So next, let's go into real-time change detection based backup. So when a user logs in and makes a change to the device configuration and logs out, NCM will automatically detect this particular change and trigger a backup for those devices. Let me show you in detail how this real-time based change detection based configuration backup works. The user first logs in to the device, makes some kind of change, and logs out. So the syslog listener looks for a logout message. And if a logout message is found, it triggers a backup, and NCM will then compare this version of the configuration with the most recent version of configuration of that particular device already present in NCM. So if a change is found, if a difference in those 2 configuration files are found, the configuration is immediately backed up and encrypted and stored in the database. If it is not, this new configuration version will be discarded. So in order for NCM to be able to take backups, trigger backups for your devices using real-time change detection, you'll have to enable change detection in those devices. So I'm just showing you how to do that. You can select one or more devices here. Click on the 3-dot menu here. And once you select enable change detection, NCM will be able to take backups of these devices based on real-time change detection. So while trying to enable change detection for devices, you might face this error. which could be due to NCM not supporting syslog for those particular models. So you can enable syslog. You can fix this by enabling syslog by manually connecting the device through telnet or putty. Or if you're finding it difficult to do that, you can always contact NCM support. Another error that you could face is that the change detection is enabled, but the change is not detected. So this could be due to the ports being mismatched in the server settings, or if the syslog server is not in running status. So you can fix this by going to the server settings as shown before. Go to basic settings, then you go to server settings. Here you check the status of the syslog server, and if it is not in running status, you can click on start service here and click on save. So you'll now be able to take backups of those devices using real-time change detection. So finally, we have the scheduled backup here. So when your network configurations are being changed continuously to accommodate all the business needs and business requirements, you might have to take routine backups. So with NCM, you can take repeated routine backups in fixed time intervals, which you can configure. So let me show you how to schedule backups using Network Configuration Manager. You go to settings here, you go to schedule here, go to all schedules, and here you can see all the schedules that are already present here in this instance of NCM. To add a new schedule, all you have to do is click on the add button here, give the schedule a name, select the schedule type, select it as configuration backup here. You can choose to select one of these different options here. If you want to receive a notification if there's a failure in backup, or if you want to exclude configuration difference from notifications, or if you want to get notified if there's a configuration change. And after that, you can associate devices to this new schedule that you're creating. You can either schedule individual devices, or you can select devices based on their groups. You can choose to receive an email notification by entering your email here. And here you can select the frequency of your schedules, of your configuration backups. So if you want it to be hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or just once. Here you can select the date. Here you can select the time. And here you can select the intervals between which your configuration backup has to occur. So while trying to schedule backups, you might face the following error of a schedule failure. So this could be due to the device credentials being incorrect. So they would have been right when you first applied the credentials to the device, but would have been changed later. So all you have to do is go to the apply credentials as shown earlier and enter the current credentials of the device. So while changing to backup configurations in any of these methods, you might face these following errors. The credentials are changed or invalid, that could be a common cause. Or if the ports are blocked, or if the TFTP or SCP servers are not started. To fix that, all you have to do is go and restart the servers as shown before. Or the configuration file could be so huge that it exceeded the timeout. So you can go and edit the timeout settings in the device template of that particular device. So let me show you how to do that. So you go to settings here, go to device management, go to device templates. So as an example, I'm just selecting the device template here. And here you can increase the timeout. So I'm just changing it from 20,000 to 90,000. And once I'm done with that, I can click on save. And now you'll be able to take backups of those devices. Another common cause for backup failure could be due to the backup commands being unsupported. So to fix this, you can go back to the device templates, edit the commands, and click on save, or you can create a new device template by cloning the closest template, or if you're finding it difficult to do that, you can always contact NCM support. So let's move on to change management. Using change management feature in NCM, you can track changes in your configurations, in the configuration of devices that are being managed by your instance of NCM. And NCM also versions all the configuration versions, all the changes, and also maintains a history of them. You can also compare configurations. So let's look into this in detail. So using the change tracking, versioning, and history feature, you can view all the changes made in a device, and you can also view who made the change and when the change was made and what was changed in each configuration change made by the user. You can also look at a historical trend, and you can also have a look at what lines were modified, deleted, or added in the configuration. So let me show you this in the UI. So you go to the inventory and you just select the device here, which will then take you to the device snapshot page. And here you click on the config details tab. So these are all the configuration versions of that particular device. So this is the current running and startup configuration version. And these are all the other versions. So here's the date of when it was captured on, the host name and the IP address of the device, the version number, whom it was changed by, the configuration type, if it was running or startup configuration, and if the change was authorized or unauthorized. So I can view the number of lines that were changed or modified by selecting the particular configuration version. So here is the difference of that version with the previous version, and here is the difference of that version with the baseline version. So we'll be looking into baseline version later in the training. So here are the number of lines that are added, modified, or deleted. Another interesting feature is the compare configuration feature, where you can compare different versions of configuration of the same device or of different devices. And the changes are all color coded. There's a color for added, the lines that are added, modified, and deleted. So let me show you a configuration comparison in the UI. So I'm just clicking here. So these are the lines that are added to this particular device configuration version when compared to its previous configuration version or its baseline configuration version. And I can choose to see the lines that were modified and deleted. I can choose to compare this version of the configuration with a different version. So I can select any of these versions present here. I can choose to compare it with the startup configuration or a configuration draft version. You can see all the versions available here. Or I can choose to compare this configuration with that of a different device. I can either choose to view difference only or all lines of the configuration where the difference is highlighted. So this is the final part of our training, disaster recovery. So what is a network disaster? A network disaster can range from a network issue, a performance degradation, a security breach, to a full-blown network outage where all devices in your network are rendered inaccessible. So this could happen due to a faulty configuration change being uploaded into the device, or if there's an intrusion of any kind, or if there's a malware. So how do you stay prepared for a disaster, a network disaster? You can label a configuration version of your device as the baseline configuration. You can always synchronize your startup and running configuration. You can configure change notifications and a rollback mechanism. And you can also export configurations into your local machine and edit them and upload the draft later. So let's look into baseline configuration first. Baseline configuration is the best working version of configuration or the most stable version of configuration of that particular device when it was at its optimum performance. So it's really useful in times of a network disaster. All you have to do is select the baseline version and upload it to the device, and it will instantly recover from a network disaster. So let me show you how to label a configuration as baseline in Network Configuration Manager. If you go to the inventory, you can select the device here. Click on the three-dot menu button here. You go to the label configuration here, and you select the label as baseline. and you can see the description here. And once you click on save, the current startup and running configuration of this device will be labeled as baseline. So whenever there's a network issue due to this particular device, all you have to do is select the device, click on the three-dot menu here, click on upload config here, select baseline version. You can select the baseline version here and click on upload here. So once you're done with that, the device will instantly recover from any network issue. So while trying to upload a baseline configuration, you might face the following error, that we don't support upload feature for this particular device. So this could be due to the TELNET or SSH protocol being used in the device. So you can go and edit the protocols in the device credentials. So let me show you how to do that. You go to the credentials by clicking on the key icon here. You select the protocol as SSH TFTP or SSH SCP or TELNET TFTP or SNMP TFTP. So these are the protocol combinations that support configuration upload. So if you do that, it will be instantly fixed and you can start uploading configurations to your device. So it could also be due to the SCP or TFTP protocol being used. So the device vendor can support NCM, but the device template does not have the upload commands, the appropriate upload commands. So you can fix this by adding the upload commands by cloning a device template or creating a new device template, or you can go and edit the existing template. If you're finding it difficult to do that, you can contact NCM support. Startup and running configuration sync. So this is very important because all changes you make to a device configuration is written over the running configuration. So running configurations are in the volatile memory of the device, and a device power failure or a device reboot can result in the loss of all these changes. So if the changes that you made recently were critical or security related, loss of these changes can lead to network issues or other vulnerabilities. So how does NCM help? NCM helps you detect these conflicts and also helps you sync these configurations. So let me show you this in the UI. Here you can see a column which says conflict. So any devices that are not in sync here, that show the conflict detected message here, have the startup running configuration conflict. So you can fix this by selecting those devices, going to the three-dot menu here, clicking on sync configurations, and NCM will immediately copy the running configuration to the startup configuration of those devices. The conflict will no longer appear in those devices. So while trying to sync startup and running configurations, you might face the following error of upload failure. So this could be due to the command timeout. So as shown earlier, you can go back to the device templates and edit the timeout settings for the upload commands. Also, it could be due to the TFTP or SCP servers not in running status. So according to your protocols that you're using for those devices, you can go and check and fix the TFTP and SCP servers and restart them in the server settings. So another error that you could face is that the change happens, but the conflict is not detected by NCM in real time. So this could be due to the real-time change detection not being enabled. So you can enable that as shown earlier from the inventory itself. So, or if it could be due to the syslog not being supported, and the startup running configuration will be detected by NCM only after the next successful manual or scheduled backup. So let's move on to change notification and rollback mechanism. So using NCM, you can receive change notifications via the following channels: via email, via SNMP trap for change event, via travel tickets, or you can generate syslog messages for every change event. You can also configure rollback mechanisms to its previous version or to its baseline versions. So let me show you how to configure change notifications in NCM. You go to change management here, and these are the change notifications that are already created in NCM. To create a new one, you can click on the plus icon here. You can give the notification a name, a description. You can select the configuration type here. if you want it to be startup and running configuration, or if you want it to be just running configuration or startup configuration. You can also choose the change type here if you want to be authorized, unauthorized, or both of them. So here you can choose the channel via which you want to receive the notification. If you wanted to receive it through an email, you can click email, enter an email ID here, a subject, and a message. If you want your notification to be sent through an SNMP tab, which you can send it directly to your network monitoring solution, you can select the SNMP tab, provide all the details here. If you want it via syslog, which can be sent to your log monitoring or SIEMs, you can enter the host name and destination port here. Or if you want a trouble ticket to be generated, you can click the option here and you can enter the email ID here. You can also give the ticket a subject and a message. Finally, you have the rollback mechanism where you can configure a rollback to the previous version of the configuration of that particular device or to its version label baseline. So this is very important and this is very useful when you want no changes to be made to your critical devices like your core routers or your firewalls. So once you're done selecting the channel via which you want to receive a notification, and if you want the rollback mechanism to be configured, you can click on next. Here you can associate devices to which this notification profile has to work on. You can select the specific device here, or you can select devices in groups. Once you're done with that, you can click on save, and the notifications and rollback mechanisms will be immediately configured for the associated devices. Finally, we have the export configuration option here. So you can use these options to export all the configurations into your local machine, and you can edit them in a text file and use them later when NCM is unavailable for some reason. So all these configurations are exported into your local machine. You can then save them, edit them as required. So you can schedule export configuration options in NCM. So let me show you how to do that. You go to settings here, click on settings. Here you have the option of export configuration. And here you can choose at what frequency you want the export configuration operation to happen. You can have daily, weekly, monthly. So you can choose the time here at whatever time you want the configurations to be exported. You can also enter an email ID here if you want to receive an email when the exporting is completed. You can choose individual devices here, or you can choose devices in groups. You can choose to receive a notification when there is a failure in exporting configurations. You can also choose to keep all the configurations in the same folder by selecting this option. So this is the destination directory, and this is where all the configurations are exported to. So the destination folder name is always the current date at which you're exporting the configuration. You can choose different date formats here from the dropdown. So once you're done with that, if you want the export configurations to happen immediately, you can click on this button here. Or if you want to schedule it after giving all the specifics here, you can click on save, and NCM will automatically export all configurations in the particular scheduled date and time. So we've come to the end of the training, but we still have a Q&A session, which will be handled by our product expert, Kanagraj. So over to Kanagraj.
Hi, my name is Kanagraj. I am working this product more than 8 years. In today's sessions, we got a lot of questions. We have picked top 10 questions and we are going to answer those questions in this session. And the first question is, where the configuration backup file stored? If you back up any configuration file using Network Configuration Manager, we back up the configuration file and we store the configuration file inside the database with an encrypted format for the security reason. And And the second question is changed by name not available in the configuration file. In Network Configuration Manager, we have some limitation to get the changed by information from the devices. We are using the syslog messages to get the changed by name. If the device backup through scheduled backup or a manual backup, in this case, we will not be able to get the changed by information. So in this case, if you backup the device using scheduled backup or a manual backup, in this case, Network Configuration Manager failed to get the changed by information. And the next question is, what is mean by authorized changes and unauthorized changes? If you are using Network Configuration Manager tool to do the changes, those changes are marked as authorized changes. If you are using PuTTY or some other tool to do the changes and Network Configuration Manager detect the changes, those changes are marked as unauthorized changes. And the next question is it possible to create a several user like A, B, C to log into the router with their own access? Currently, it's not possible to create multiple credential profile and associate multiple credential profile for a single device. We are using a single credential to communicate the device and get the configuration file from the network devices. How to create a credential profile? For example, you have added a number of devices, all the devices having the same credentials. In this case, you will not go to the devices manually one by one and provide the credentials. Instead of providing the credentials manually, you can create a credential profile and you can associate a credential profile to devices or device group. I will show you how to create it. You just go to settings, discovery, credentials. Here you just go to backup credential and here you can click add credential and here provide the credential name and description and here you can just type the login sequence of the device. If you are going to use SSH credential to back up the devices, in this case you can click SSH tab and you can provide the credentials. Once you save the credential profile, you just go to inventory and you can select multiple devices and you can click apply credentials to apply the credentials for multiple devices. How to search a particular string in the entire configuration file? Like you have hundreds of network devices, you want to know how many devices having a public string in your configuration file. In this case, you can use Network Configuration Manager global configuration search feature to search the configuration line. I will show you how to search. Just go to inventory and you can use the configuration search option. Here you just provide the string, like if you want to search a public, just type public and you can click search. In this case, Network Configuration Manager search the community and it will list of the configuration file, which are the configuration file contains the particular line. And the next question is how to manage and unmanage the devices. For example, you have 10 devices, like you are going to shut down 2 of the devices from your network. In this case, you should avoid the configuration backup happen on the devices. In this case, in order to delete the devices from Network Configuration Manager, you can unmanage the devices from Network Configuration Manager. If you unmanage the devices from Network Configuration Manager, none of the operations is going to perform on the unmanaged devices. I will show you how to unmanage the devices. Just go to inventory and you can select the devices and just click actions and here we have unmanage. You can use this option to unmanage the devices. How to create a dynamic group? Like you have a number of devices. If you add any new devices, you want to add the devices automatically into the device group. In this case, you can use the dynamic device group to achieve this requirement. Just go to groups add. Here we have a criteria based group. Like if you select vendor as HP, and if you create a group, if you add any HP devices, the devices will be automatically placed under the particular device group. And the next question is, where can I see the backup just I run? If you add a device and if you back up the devices, and network configuration manager communicate the device using the protocol that you have chosen, and it will back up the current running and startup configuration. You can see the configuration files by going inventory and click on the device. Here you are able to see the current running and startup configuration. If you go to config details, here you are able to see the list of configuration files present for a particular device. And the final question is only SNMP read community record for discovering the devices? Yes, we need only SNMP community to discover the devices into network configuration manager. We don't need the write community. These are the major questions is come to this today's session, and we are having our next session on 6 a.m. GMT on 10th September. In these sessions, we are going to see the schedule the configuration task, CLA conflict, compliance, role-based access control, notifications and alerts, and reports. This is our support email ID. If you have any further questions, you can contact using our support email IDs, and you can see our tech videos using our YouTube channel. And if you have any comments, you can use our forums to raise your comments. Thanks for joining today's session. Hope the session is useful to you. Thank you. Bye.